Paltrocast now with Darren Paltrowitz. Get ready to listen to your favorite artists. The Paltrocast is starting real soon. New interviews, no auto-tune. The Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now. Paltrocast.
Thanks to Steve Schiltz for that great theme song, and thanks to you for checking out the latest edition of the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz. On this edition, we have interviews with 3 different people who are inspirational, doing great things, and are pretty interesting overall. And that's Tyler from the band Theory of a Deadman, professional wrestler PJ Black, and singer-songwriter Marc Cohn. First up is my interview with Tyler from Theory of a Deadman, and the latest album from his band is called Say Nothing. Kind of a misleading album title because these are meaningful songs that are really about everything, not just nothing. And the band is coming up on its 20th anniversary. Tyler and I spoke about that, what's coming up for Theory of a Deadman, and I really got to know a different side of him. Really a funny guy, an interesting and nice and pleasant and patient guy that you may not know from his music was generally serious. Hope you enjoy the chat.
Darren, what's up?
Hey, great to connect, and congratulations on the new album. It's coming out in a couple of days. How long has it been done?
Oh, it's been tough for a while, man. We recorded this April, May last year. Yeah, it's been forever.
And I understand that you made the album overseas in England. Was that the plan all along?
Yeah, we made our last one there with Martin Tereffi in London. That's where his studio is. And we first tried to talk him out of it. We're like, why don't you fly to New York? And he's like, no. But it's just amazing over there. We have such a great time that we are so excited to go back and do it again.
And your producer, Martin, what was the album or project in general that drew you into wanting to work with him?
You know, it was actually our A&R guy, Pete, who brought him up to us. And I went and looked him up, and I Googled his name, and a photo came up of him, and he looked like a mad scientist. He was wearing like a sweater vest with a tie. I'm like, this guy's hired. I don't even know what he's done, but I loved his look. Seriously, it was just like something about him, just the way he dressed, I was into, and I was just like, this guy's going to do some crazy stuff. Let's get him.
So the rare kind of case where the A&R guy had good advice about the album.
Yes, exactly. Ironically, yeah. No, Pete's actually pretty good. He listens to the demos, and he's smart. He knows. He kind of caters to the sound and goes, okay, instead of going with just a rock producer, he goes, well, what you guys are kind of doing here, maybe a little different. Let's use a different kind of style producer. And he kind of threw me some names, and Martin kind of was, I think, the best pick.
And the album is called Say Nothing, but obviously the songs say a lot in terms of a message and the lyrics and what they mean and all that. When did you come up with the title with relation to making the album?
We were in the studio. I think it was Dave Brennan, the guitar player, that came up with it. We have a few times now named albums after songs or song lyrics. I think that's kind of been our whole thing. The whole career has been about that. And ironically, the title is not about the song at all. It's more, I guess, about us trying to tell people to just shut up and listen. Just especially nowadays in 2020, there's so much trolling and cyberbullying and people just leaving negative comments everywhere. That Say Nothing was kind of like what we're trying to tell people. You know what? It would be nice if everyone just stopped spewing garbage and just listen to one another. I think that's kind of our message. And
there's a lot of touring already announced for 2020. Will you be playing a lot of the album on the upcoming dates? No, it's tough. This is our 7th record, so. With our fan base, and, we honestly just try to cater to the fans, and we tell fans that. We say, look, when you come see us live, we might play 1, maybe 2 songs for the new record, depending, but we have such a catalog now, it really is tough to do that. And to be honest, I don't think the fans want to hear that. I think if I was a fan of a band, went saw them play, and they played like 6 songs for the new album, I'd be like, boo! I'd be like, play the classics.
So that's what we do, you know.
And you bring up an interesting point about having that big catalog. When I look at your discography, every 3 years there's a new record, literally every 3 years. And next year marks 20 years of the band. When you started the band, did you know that this was a thing for the long term?
I think I did. I think when we signed our record deal, you know, we all quit our day jobs. Me and Dave quit our day jobs the day after Christmas, and we kind of were just like, that's it. I'm never getting a day job again. I don't care what I have to do. That was kind of our deal. And so I don't know. It's always a surprise. Obviously, we are super lucky to be able to do this, you know, for a living. But yeah, we kind of made that pact years ago, and we stuck with it.
And what was that day job, if you don't mind me asking, that you quit?
Yeah, I worked at a glass place. We made it was a glazier, I guess is what they call it. So I worked with glass. It was actually a really cool job, man. I built a lot of things, worked with a lot of glass, got cut a lot. And I got my journeyman card, they call it. You have to go take testing and stuff. So you carry around this little card with you. And I guess that was going to be my career, but the music thing worked out. So I can always go back to it, I guess.
And looking ahead to that anniversary that I mentioned, are there plans to really embrace the 20th anniversary thing, or is that just more of a made-up American thing, really?
We'll probably embrace it with probably some naps or something. We're all noticing as we get older that we're starting to find more injuries. Like the last tour we were on, Dean, our bass player, after one show, he said he heard some pop in his foot on stage, and then he was like, the next day he couldn't walk, and I'm like, stuff's falling apart after being on stage for 20 years. So yeah, we'll probably celebrate it by relaxing, I think. Hot tub.
And speaking of relaxing, what is life like for you outside of music? Because you've been pretty steady with making an album every 3 years, but of course there is a lot of idle time during the day on tour when you don't have to do interviews.
Well, there's a lot of dichotomy. So, I mean, a couple of guys in the band are family guys. They've got kids, and a lot of the time is spent with that. But yeah, when we're home, we don't really do music. It's kind of the opposite. We go home and we don't get a lot of time off. We relax. I've gotten into golf a lot, so I try to do golf trips with friends, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. We try to go home and relax and try to get away from everything that we enjoy, ironically. But then when we go back on tour, we're so refreshed and excited to get back out.
And being a rock guy in the golf game, have you ever crossed paths with Alice Cooper?
Yeah, you know what? I've never golfed with Alice Cooper. He did sing on one of our songs, and I went over to his house, and they had to push the session a few hours. And I'm like, yeah, because he's probably golfing. Probably didn't move his tee time. And I kind of wished he would just invite me out to play golf beforehand, but I guess he didn't know I played golf. So there's always next time.
Are there a lot of golf people in your music circle in general?
There is, man. There's a lot of people who play golf, especially when you go in like these little fun tournaments and stuff. You run into a lot of industry people, but other band guys too. I last couple of years done a golf tournament in Florida, and Josh from the Data Members come out and played. And so it's, and I think last year it was drummer from Seven Dust came out and played. So we try to get some band guys out. It's just a lot of fun.
In closing, any last words for the kids?
For the kids, you know, you one day will be looking back and going, man, why do my knees hurt all the time? So enjoy while it lasts, kids.
Well, thank you very much for that answer. Looking forward to seeing you in Newark and hopefully a New York gig soon. Really, thanks for your time, Tyler.
You got it, man. Thanks, Darren.
Paltrocast.
Next up is my phone interview with PJ Black. People who watch professional wrestling probably recognize PJ from his time in WWE's Justin Gabriel, but he also did time in other major companies over the last 2 decades. PJ recently signed a multi-year deal with Ring of Honor, which is an independent wrestling company that not everybody listening to this podcast is familiar with. But those who are big wrestling fans will know that it's been responsible for some of the WWE's biggest stars over the past few decades. Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, Cesaro, etc. They all got their start working with Ring of Honor. And it's very interesting that PJ Black could work at the highest of high levels with the WWE and decline an offer to go back there to choose to work with Ring of Honor. We explored a bit of that in our interview. We also talked about his life outside of wrestling, which also is pretty darn interesting. Hope you enjoy the chat with PJ. Hey, PJ, it's Darren for your interview. Still a good time?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How's it going for you today?
Oh, very well. Thank you.
Well,
I had a massage, so I'm feeling very relaxed.
That's great to hear. But one of the reasons I wanted to speak with you is you just signed a new multi-year agreement with Ring of Honor. What is it that keeps you there at ROH?
Oh, there's quite a few things, I think for the first time in my life, I actually made a pros and cons list because I had a couple of other offers on the table. And where I am right now in my life, certain things matter. And there's so many other wrestling companies out there. So, there's some good money to be made everywhere. But, you got to decide where you want to be, where you think you can have the biggest impact. And, for me, it was creative freedom. And I looked at the Ring of Honor roster and I looked at the talent that they re-signed, and I was like, wow, I can have amazing matches with every single one of these guys. And I really believe in the product, and I think that this is going to be a big year for Ring of Honor's growth.
Who is some of the talent that you really feel strongly about that you like to work with in the future in Ring of Honor?
All the young kids, like Flip Gordon is amazing, Bandito is amazing, Dragon Lee. I think those three guys are the future of professional wrestling, and the fact that Ring of Honor signed all three of them to big contracts, it's amazing, It just shows that there's some high hopes for Ring of Honor this year.
And you've basically worked with every big wrestling company around the world over the last 2 decades. And it's amazing to me that you've been wrestling more of your life than not. Was there ever a plan B as to what you'd be doing with your life if you weren't a wrestler?
I actually got a master's degree in sports nutrition, sports science too. That's my passion. My passion is actually nutrition. I was actually a while ago gonna when I was injured 2 years ago, I got injured in a base jumping accident, and I wasn't sure if I was ever going to wrestle again. So I was actually looking into doing my PhD because it would be super cool. People legit call me doctor. But that is a backup plan. But I always tell kids to always have a backup plan. And my mom made me go to college to get my degree in case something happened. But in the same breath, when you have a backup plan, you don't put all your energy into something. This is not to say like you cannot get injured or something like that, or some other unforeseen circumstances, but you know what I mean. It's always good to have a backup plan, and that was mine.
Have you opened up a practice, or is that something that you're in the process of doing?
No, I don't have a practice or anything, but I've been helping people with nutrition advice for a long time. I was a personal trainer for 5 years too before I got signed with WWE. So, and my training methods are very unorthodox and very different to most people. So people like variety, and people like the way that I do things. Some people don't like the way that I do things, but everyone gets results. If I was never be able to wrestle ever again, I'd probably become like a team doctor for one of the big wrestling companies. That'd be so I can still be involved in wrestling, because I do love this stuff.
Was DDP yoga ever something that was on your radar in terms of getting back into shape?
I did it for a little while. I've been doing yoga for years, so DDP yoga is just his take on yoga. I do a bunch of different variations of yoga and Pilates and stuff like that. So I've been doing all that stuff for years.
Well, back to you in your wrestling career. It's also pretty amazing that you were able to wrestle against Bret Hart in Madison Square Garden. Is that one of your proudest accomplishments in terms of your career?
Of course. I grew up watching Bret Hart, and I love Bret Hart. Like, from the first moment I saw him, I told my dad, I was like, man, this guy's going to be world champion one day. And he was, and at that time, in that era, guys his size weren't really main event status, but he changed the game in a lot of ways, and people don't realize that. And so, yeah, just to be able to be in the ring with him is super cool, and just to be able to share some stories with him is unreal. For me, that was kind of marking out in a way.
Well, looking back at everything, though, the Nexus was literally a decade ago. And for a lot of people, that'd be the peak of their wrestling career, yet you've done so much in the last decade. Is there overall an accomplishment that you're most proud of within your in-ring career?
That's a tough one. I think that the thing that I'm proud of mostly is still evolving and still getting better every single day. A lot of people they get to TV and then they kind of just phone it in when they go back to the indies or they go to other companies, and they just don't have that same drive anymore. And I understand that, it happens because it's such a tiring lifestyle. It's a very tough lifestyle. A lot of people don't realize that. But the fact that I've come this far, and like I'll be 40 next year, and I'm in the best shape of my life, I feel like that's probably my biggest accomplishment, and still growing and still evolving as a performer, as a wrestler, as an athlete, in and out of the ring, actually.
And you mentioned before, sports medicine is your passion and something you'll be doing for the long term. But in general, what is life like for you outside of wrestling?
It depends. Like lately, we're getting super busy right now. Ring of Honor has quite a few things booked, and I'm exclusive to Ring of Honor in the United States, but I have a lot of international bookings. I have a show coming up in South Africa in my hometown, and in the same month, I'm going to Qatar, Dubai, and we're running a show in Barbados as well. So apart from Ring of Honor and all the international stuff, when I'm home, I really just like to relax and kind of like work on my body. Like I take really good care of myself. So like I just got back from an hour massage where they put me on a bed of quartz crystal with some light therapy, and I do cryotherapy daily. When I'm home, I just kind of like try to take care of my body, because my body is what's going to, push me through the next few years of wrestling.
I've kind of seen it go both ways, where people who are wrestlers who were on weekly television for years and years and years only hang out with other wrestlers. And then I've seen wrestlers who don't really hang out with people when they're not working. Which one are you closer to?
I'm a little bit of both. I was always that kid in school too. I would hang out with the jocks, the nerds. I would hang out with everybody. And my friends would be like, yo, you got to pick a group. And I was never like that. I never attached to one specific way of thinking, one way of life. I have a lot of friends in wrestling. I'm one of those guys who's friends with everybody. But I have a lot of friends outside of wrestling too. Like my girlfriend is like, how do you have so many friends? Like, she's just flabbergasted by like how many friends I have. And she's always trying to get new friends. I'm like, I'm trying to get rid of some.
All that said, is there something that you wish more people knew about you beyond the ring?
Maybe just what I'm into in real life, but I think I make that very clear on Instagram lately. For a long time, I was scared of showing that side of me, like the real side, and talking about the real things that I care about and that I believe in. And, now I'm very open about it. People ask me questions all the time. Like, I've been microdosing psilocybin for years and years and years, and now it's only becoming a big thing, and, because you couldn't talk about stuff like that years ago because it was very taboo. Now that it's legal in some states and people are doing, the FDA is actually doing studies on all these things. It's a brand new era, and now I can finally be open about stuff like that, and I've helped a lot of people throughout the years with like my own methods and therapies and nutrition things that I make up. So now that I can just be open with it, I wish more people can understand that side and realize it's not a gimmick. It's really who I am.
So it's not a wellness policy concern anymore, I guess.
Exactly.
Great. So since you've given me so much to work with, in closing, any last words for the kids?
Oh, man. Follow your dreams. Follow your passion. Don't let anyone tell you any different, because also in the same breath, respect your parents, but they don't know what you want out of life. A lot of parents try to force their kids to live their dreams and not the kids' dreams. So, take advice from people, but follow your passion, follow your own heart, because only you will know what that is.
Paltrocast.
Last, but definitely not least, is my interview with Marc Cohn. The music of Marc Cohn has been in my life longer than most things that I'm familiar with, to be honest. My brother Adam is and was a singer-songwriter, specifically a piano player and a singer. And growing up, he always played and listened to Walk Into Memphis and True Companion and other great songs by Marc. And fast forward a couple of decades here, Marc Cohn is still at it strong. Now, we had the pleasure of talking, or at least I had the pleasure of speaking with him a couple of months before his gig at City Winery in New York City. He has an annual gig there on Valentine's Day, but we focused on so much more, like his latest album, which he recorded with members of Blind Boys of Alabama, what's coming up for him, his creative process, and so forth. Great guy, great musician, and I think you're going to like this one. I'm here to help promote the upcoming City Winery show you have in New York. Are you doing that one solo or with a full band?
That's with a full band.
full band and a great opening act and maybe even a special guest. We'll see.
Cool. And will you be playing a lot from Work to Do? Because I know that's your latest album.
Playing at least one song from Work to Do. I mean, this show isn't with the Blind Boys, so it's hard sometimes to do the songs that I wrote with them in mind, but not have them there. So we can do the title track and certainly others that we did together of my older songs, but the three newer songs are kind of hard to do without the Blind Boys. But we usually do the title track, no matter what.
Does Work to Do still feel like a new album? How long did you spend making it?
Well, we didn't spend very much time. It's only 3 new studio tracks and then 6 tracks that were just taken directly from a live performance we did for PBS a couple of years ago. So it started out as an EP. It was my intention to try to write a couple songs for them that we could collaborate on as singers. And once we heard the PBS show, we thought, well, maybe this could be a full-length album and make it sort of a hybrid, part recorded, part studio, and part live. And overall, it just took a couple of weeks to put that together.
And if I've done my research correctly, your album before that was a rarities compilation. Do you have a lot of songs in general just sitting around, a lot of old recordings?
I don't. In fact, I was even surprised to find those. The truth is, I write so much less than I used to when I was younger. Back then, I had 15, 20, 25 songs sitting around. But now it's not the case. I have fragments of songs, but not fully completed work.
Did all that ever lead you down the path of wanting to write for other artists? I know that you have done that, but some artists take that more seriously than others.
I would say I take it less seriously than some and more seriously than others. I usually don't do well with collaborations, whether it's for my record or for someone else's. I think the collaborations I'm proudest of that were not for me to sing are things I wrote for the Blind Boys and for the great soul singer William Bell. I contributed to his most recent record, which I think is brilliant. So I don't go looking for that, but if it happens, often I find an assignment an interesting way to get me back into writing.
So somebody who's been following you a long time knows that the first album was the Grammy winner and the platinum seller and all that kind of stuff. And of course, there's all that pressure to have hit after hit. But at this point in your career, I'm sure you can sustain yourself off of performing live and just doing a new album every couple of years. I'm curious when things turned around for you that you could kind of be a cottage industry and not need to chase hits like that.
Well, I think you just do it long enough, people will keep showing up. That's the key to me is, can you make a live show work? Make people remember it, want to come back the next time, bring some friends that don't know you the next time. That's how you do it. You just keep playing, and hopefully you get better. Hopefully your audience grows. But that's the key.
Well, was the last album that you did in the traditional industry sense Join the Parade from 2007?
That's the last full album of original material, yeah.
And in general, was that the last time that you felt kind of pressured to follow the typical thing of album tour, album tour, that kind of cycle?
No, man. I've really, except for my first couple of records, I haven't really followed that rule at all. In fact, I've spent more years in my career off the road and not making music at all than I have making it. It's only in the past, say, 5 to 6 years that I've been consistently on the road for 100 shows a year. Before that, I would take off 5, 6, 7 years, not do a gig, not make a record. Very often it was depression or anxiety or some form of a nervous breakdown that was taking hold. But sometimes I was just completely uninspired. So I've never felt like I could or should follow that cycle. It just wasn't possible in my case.
So looking ahead at the rest of 2020, is it another 100 gig year for you?
Probably, yeah. I think we've already got about 50 booked. So, and that's just through May. So I'm going overseas with the Blind Boys. We're doing a couple shows together this summer. I'm doing some of my own shows there. But yeah, it's going to be another busy year on the road. And then I'm trying to arrange, and I think I can confirm that in at the end of 2020, I'm going to be doing a Songwriters in the Round show with Sean Colvin and David Crosby, just the three of us on stage together. So that's going to keep us busy too if we can make it work.
Wow, that would be everything coming full circle, because wasn't David Crosby on your second album singing backing vocals?
He was. In fact, I met him the night I won my Grammy. So I went up to him to tell him how much I loved his song Carry Me, along with many others. But we've been close friends, fast friends since then. He's recorded a couple of my songs with Graham and without, and I've been lucky enough to get him on a couple of my records too.
And with doing 100 gigs a year, that of course isn't 100 days on the road. That's more like 150 days on the road once you, do the logistics of all the flying in and flying out and travel days and all that. Is there much life for you outside of music and family? Are there other hobbies or businesses that you do?
Not really. I mean, I love playing tennis. It's a sport I used to play a lot. I can't play it very much anymore, but I love that. Love going to see tennis events too. I just think it's a beautiful sport. I still listen to music. I'm always looking for, new people that I haven't heard before that might move me. So I spend a little bit of time doing that. Nothing else is occurring to me in the moment. And really, as if you're talking about family, I have two young boys, age 17 and 13. I have two older kids as well. But my boys are complete basketball fanatics. So one of my favorite things to do right now is to watch them play basketball on their various leagues and teams from school and outside of school. So I spend a lot of time when I'm home going to basketball games.
So all that said, we've covered hobbies, we've covered the City Winery and the gigs for 2020 and so forth. Are there recording plans for this year, or is that really based on when you feel inspired?
It's both. Yes, I have the plans, and I'm learning slowly but surely how not to just wait for inspiration, but to actually wake up and get to work. And sometimes it just sounds contrived and uninteresting, and I leave it. Sometimes I push through and keep working on something that sounds like it sucks. But that's part of the key, right? Just keep writing, and hopefully something good will happen. I have a few songs that I like very much, and if that becomes a full-length record, I would be a very happy man.
And two last questions, and then you're a free man. And the first one is, you mentioned before that you're consistently looking for new artists. Are there any recent or new artists that really have taken you?
They're not new in particular, because a lot of these people have put out 9, 10, 11 records, and I just haven't been aware of them. But in comparison with a lot of the stuff I've listened to from the 60s and 70s all my life, they're new. So I love the Wood Brothers. I don't know if you know them, but I'm a big fan of their records. And there's a singer-songwriter who's got at least 6 or 7 records. He's from Ireland, and his name is Foy Vance. You know that name?
I know the Wood Brothers, but I don't know the second one you said, so I'm going to have to do some homework there.
Yeah, man. I can't remember the name of the record of his I love, but it has a song on it called She Burns. And his name is Foy, F-O-Y, Vance, V-A-N-C-E. I think he's terrific. So those are 2.
Homework to do, as I said. So in closing, Mark, any last words for the kids?
No last words for the kids. Last words scare me.
Paltrocast.
Thanks for listening to the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz, as produced by puregrainaudio.com. Theme song by Steve Schiltz. Audio mixed by Mark Pirro. Until next time, have a great Shabbos.